Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly Power Lounge. This is your place to hear authentic conversation from those who have power to share. My name is Amy Vaughan, and I am the owner and Chief Empowerment Officer at Together Digital, a diverse and collaborative community of women who work in digital and choose to share their knowledge, power, and connections. You can join the movement at togetherindigital.com. And today's conversation is one I've been looking forward to because we're going somewhere a lot of people dance around, but rarely go directly. The gap between women's contributions in B2B sales and how they're actually seen, compensated, and promoted. Today, our guest, Lori Richardson, is the founder of Score More Sales, a top B2B sales strategy firm, helping mid-market leaders solve real revenue problems from hiring and retention to building inclusive, high-performing sales teams. She's also the president of Women Sales Pros, a community she founded in 2015 when she noticed that nearly every single manager was trained and coaching, she was training and coaching was a male. That moment of clarity launched a movement. And Lori is now also the author of She Sells, a book dedicated to helping companies recruit, retain, and promote more women into sales and leadership. She's also the host of the award-winning podcast, Conversations with Women in Sales, and Salesforce has named her a top sales influencer for 5 years running, which is so awesome, from 2021 to 2025. Her latest initiative, the Sales Decades Project, is documenting and honoring women who quietly shaped the B2B sales industry for decades. Women who deserve to be named, celebrated, and studied. Lori's story is deeply personal, which we love here, right? We love to get vulnerable. We love to get real. We love to talk about the challenges and help each other navigate through them. She entered tech sales as a young single mother in the mid-1980s and went from minimum wage to a six-figure income. Go, Lori. She is spent her career making sure that more women succeed in that same path. Lori, we're so excited to have you here in the Power Lounge. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Amy. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. All right. We're going to just jump right in. Holler to our live listening audience. We are always glad when you join us to listen live. Members, non-members, drop your questions, drop your comments into the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on those as I interview and talk with Lori. We want to know what you want to know. That's why we have these conversations. So if you have a question, you have a comment, drop it in the chat. I promise you we will get to it during the show. But let's start with your start, Lori. As a young single mom in the 80s, looking for a role that could support your family. What was it about B2B sales that clicked for you? And when did you realize that this was the path that you wanted to help other women find as well?
Yeah, it's interesting because I grew up in a family-run business. So my grandmother, who we called Mimi, had a retail women's apparel store. I grew up in Seattle, and it wasn't just a store. I mean, it was upscale. It was very classy, really nice stuff. And she had this incredible customer base and clientele of good, regular, ongoing customers. And I learned so much from her, although I didn't think I was there to learn anything. I was just hanging out mostly. And then I started working for her. But I wanted to become a teacher. So I got out of high school early because I was bored. And I got my first degree and my associate's degree in early childhood education by the time I was 18. So when my friends were graduating, I'm way ahead of the game. Oops. But then I got pregnant, married, divorced, and sidetracked a little bit. And suddenly my childcare working with kids who were mostly under 5 years old. I loved it so much. It was so great. And I worked at the University of Washington with international students' kids, but I couldn't support my family. And so I thought, I'm going to find something that's non-traditional, that my male peers are making the same money, because as a head of household, why shouldn't I make the same? So that's what I set out to do. And I did research, and I went through a program where I learned all sorts of different non-traditional jobs for women. And then the guy came in to talk about technology. And when that happened, I thought, just somehow it came to me. This was not a big grand plan, mind you. It just, some voice said to me, what if you sold technology? And so I was able to get in after many, many tries, lots of resumes, applied all over town. I got a role as a salesperson in a computer store, basically.
I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing it. I honestly cannot imagine what that must have been like, graduating from school younger, getting pregnant young, getting divorced young, going through all of that, and then still having the clarity for yourself to trust that intuition and say, oh, like this is the thing, and not just see like the roadblocks, but see the opportunity in that. I think that
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there had to be a better way. I knew there had to be a better way, and I didn't want to be hand to mouth. And what had happened, one of the things that happened is I got in a car accident on my way to buy my son a pair of shoes. And I totaled my car, and I actually didn't have car insurance back then because it wasn't required, and I was just scraping by. It just changed everything that I realized, I have to have more stability. It hit me young, probably because I'm the youngest in my family. And so I've seen, I'd seen a lot of other things, but yeah, it was definitely a turning point. And I started on straight commission in my sales job. I didn't make a penny. I had a guarantee for about 2 months, and then it was all me. So I had to learn how to be successful.
Wow, that's a gauntlet right there, like on all ends and all sides. But it is fascinating how, like, sometimes those lowest points, those lowest moments are the moments you're like, I just got to get up and figure this out. So, fast forward to 2015. Now you're training other sales managers, and you look around the room and you're like, wait a second, it's all dudes. That realization became women sales pros. What do you think about that gap that is said about the industry then, and how was it then, and how has it or hasn't it changed since the 80s?
Yeah, I just posted about it today on my LinkedIn. Actually, I wrote an article, a long form article, and I think about this all the time. Every year it's Women's History Month, it's International Women's Day, and October is Women in Sales Month, and so I'm always wondering what's changed, what's different, how can I make an impact, how can I say something differently, and and what I realized in 2015, it felt like the 1980s, because I actually had more women that I worked with back then. In my first job, I had a good mix of men and women. We were having a blast. We were all young. There was no big issues. Everybody made the same money. But then it was my next role and subsequent sales roles that I started to see pay inequity, just being passed over, not being heard, and a lot of those things. And it just surprised me when I walked into this room full of about 100 managers that about 90 some of them were men. And I know that women are good in leadership, and I know women can be really good in sales. Not sales is not for everyone, for sure, but women can just kill it, as they say, really succeed. And I just was so surprised that it hadn't changed in that was a telecom industry.
Oh, telecom. I was a telemarketer for all of like 3 months, and it was the worst job of my life. But I will tell you that it really taught me how to just kind of go for it, and then get past the uncertainty, get past the lack of confidence, because you have a quota. And like you said, you're working on commission. And so it really pushes you out of your comfort zone. And, and it's not easy. You're right. And it's not for everybody. But I think what it taught me was that assertiveness and that confidence, as I continued to grow and build it and get more comfortable with like my script and the approach and managing different types of people. It's like you're learning the game, and it's kind of
Yeah, and
interesting.
sales skills are life skills. And so I feel like there's no downside for a woman in particular, women or men, but in particular women, to spend 2 years in a sales role, because the first year can be tough. But once you master things and once you get a handle on how things work and the ebbs and flows and things like that, and if you're able to deal with rejection, it it's such an amazing career, and all of the lessons apply to life. So if you want to go on and start your own business, for example, you're going to be the first salesperson. And so you better know how to sell. And many business people start businesses all the time. Founders start, they don't know the first thing about sales. Those are companies that we work with sometimes. And so, and if you just want to stay in corporate and climb the corporate ladder at various companies, you use those sales skills for that too. So it's a really good set of skills to learn, even if you just use it professionally or with your kids or your family, in terms of where you're going for vacation. And all of those things have to do, there are ways that you can help influence the outcome.
Yeah, that's great. I love that soundbite. Sales skills are life skills. It's absolutely true because it takes all that. It takes confidence. It takes negotiation. It takes self-awareness. Yeah, a lot of those things. No, I mentioned earlier in your intro about your book, She Sells. And it's addressed to both company and sales leaders and not just women. So I was curious, like, why did you make that choice specifically? And what was the most common blind spot that you see in leaders who think they are building inclusive sales teams, but maybe aren't?
Yeah, so She Sells was really the book with all the answers that I was giving to leaders who were mostly men. So that book actually is for men more than women. Anyone in leadership, a lot of the women know that we need more women, and most women hire more women than men do and are more diverse in terms of their thinking and building inclusive teams. So it was really written to men to say, hey, here's how you can do a better job at finding more diverse candidates. Here's how you can, put them through the process to recruit. And then here's how you can onboard in a better way. So it was lots of different, it was really my answers to all these one-on-one conversations I had with leaders over the years, and just put it in a book. How has it changed? I feel like, there are some companies that do it really well, and there are a bunch that don't. And so at least people have the choice now to find those good companies and find the good leaders. If you're going to report to someone, you want to work for someone who wants your best interest, who wants you to grow and improve, who wants you to have the same pay as your male counterpart. All those things are really important because the latest stats from 2024 show that women are still not paid equally, even in a sales role where there's commissions involved, because it's the salaries that are not set the same. It happened to me in the 80s, and it continued. Once you're down lower, you don't ever get ahead. That's the problem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, that's great. I love that. And I am so with you there. I mean, it's obviously like you can't just preach to the choir, and I'm all about empowering women, but I also think you need to empower the allies. And I think a lot of men hold back from doing that because they don't feel like they have the information, insight, data, or even the ability to have the empathy. Not saying they're not empathetic, it's just they don't have the lived experience. And so I think if they're willing to sit and hear that, go ahead.
Yeah, and there's such a societal influence. For example, just the book being called She Sells, a lot of men thought that is for women. Mm-hmm. And so I had CEOs that said, ooh, I'm going to give this to all the women on my sales team. Yeah. And I was like, you didn't read the subtitle. Read the subtitle. It's for you, man.
Right.
So that was funny to me, and maybe not so funny, but it holds true. It holds true. And so the event that I'm doing in April, I don't use the word women in it, if you noticed, because I don't want to disenfranchise half the population who thinks it's not for them, because we have both women and men attending.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. I think that that's the right approach this day and age, and given where we are, I think that's going to be the thing that helps move the needle forward.
Because we're recognizing women doesn't mean that men won't appreciate it and learn from it. And what I'm excited about is that a lot of, we have 50 university students in sales programs that are attending, and probably half are men. So that's really good for those young men growing up.
I love it. That's great. Yeah. Got to raise them right. Awesome. Let's talk about, you mentioned earlier, compensation. and unequal pay in sales and how it's a real and documented problem across a multitude of industries. But let's keep it focused on sales. What are the patterns you see, and what do you tell women who suspect they're being underpaid but aren't sure how to approach it?
Well, it's interesting. I like to follow the data. I don't like to just throw out numbers and stats. And there's a lot of bad stats about pay. It's hard, particularly sales, because the government used to do some kind of tracking, but there were a lot of retail jobs that were mixed in. What I have looked to a survey, a couple things. One is Gartner did some research. They haven't updated it in a few years, but Gartner has had some really good research about women in sales and good stats. But there's a company called Exactly, and they have a tool that helps calculate commissions and things like that people use, a platform. And what they found that I think the last time it was done was 2024. And they found that the research showed that women are significantly underrepresented, constituting only 34% of the sales force and 29% of sales managers. Now, the further you go up beyond sales managers to VPs of sales and chief revenue officers, it gets less and less oxygen up there for women. So it's a much, much smaller amount. And this hasn't changed a whole lot over the years, which is sad.
Yeah, no, I agree. The stats are usually either abysmal and or questionable, but nonetheless, the more accurate, the less like disheartening they are. Okay, so when it comes to like approaching the conversation, I think that's another thing, right? I think as women, we're not conditioned to talk about money, which is hard because sales is nothing but money, right? How might someone go about having that conversation if they feel like they're being poorly or undercompensated? Like, where do you even begin?
Well, I think just understanding the stats. So again, on average, men earn 3.5% more than women as salespeople. And when they adjust outside factors, men earn 9% more than women as salespeople. And that's base salary, fixed pay, as they would call it. And so it's really important to understand when there's a job offer to know that, that what they base it on. Like, it's anytime you're negotiating, it's good to know where did you get that number from, or how did you base that number? And I think that's a fair question. And then I'm just a real stickler because I know that at least 2 or 3 times in my career, I was not paid the same as my male counterparts. So even today, even as a thought leader, someone asked me if I would contribute to an article or, something on a website, I want to know, well, is anyone else getting paid to do this? If I'm volunteering my time and IP, is anyone else getting paid? And that's my first question. And so I'm going to find out. And I think it's important for women to know if they're getting a fair salary. And also, if you're in a sales role, it's kind of upon you to ask for more because it demonstrates what you're thinking about if your customer is going to ask for a discount or something, for example, to be comfortable to talk about numbers and to see what's fair and to see what a company is able to do.
That's a great point, Lori. I never thought about that. The fact that you negotiating your salary and the terms and the benefits of your job is you demonstrating your skills to do the job. I love it. I love it. And like you said, just the asking. I mean, we once were doing an event and for Together Digital, and we had a panel. It was funny, and it was a conversation about negotiation and whatnot. And we, had a couple of guys attending the event, and we always love to hear from them and what they have to say. And one of the guys, kind of towards the end, somebody had made an ask about specific negotiation, and he's like, "Ask for the no." The worst they can say is no. And that was like, what? So simple, but made a lot of sense. It took a lot of the pressure and the overthinking off. And then the other thing was when it was several years ago now, one of our members stood up and shared that she had learned that one of her coworkers who went to the same college as her, got the same degree as her, started at the company the same week as her in the same role, just a different client, was making more than her. And she didn't say how much more, but she really wanted to know how to approach the topic. And so the advice from the group, because we kind of do this whole ask and give exchange thing, was, just go to your boss and ask, do we practice pay equity here? And if so, how does my salary compare to, let's say, oh, I don't know, this guy that I work with who does the exact same job with the exact same degree from the exact same college? And the boss man's like, yeah, let me look into that. Comes back to her not even a month later and is like, okay, so we're going to give you a raise. And Lori, she got a $60,000 a year raise, not 16, not 6,000, 60, 60000. Yeah, ridiculous. 5 figures of a raise because that's how much she was getting underpaid. Incredible. But we don't know if we don't ask, and we don't have to go like charging in and making, like, I love that was the advice from the community, was like, don't go charging in and being accusatory. Be curious, ask the questions, and then wait for the answers.
Yeah. And then also, if sometimes people say, oh, everybody starts at the same level, this is how we hire. I heard that from a big company not recently, but a while ago. But the men will negotiate, but I need to have a week off at Christmas, or I can't start for another, or I need this or that. And they get all these, all these things added in that we don't think about. And another example for women is, I know a woman who came back from maternity leave and she really wanted a bigger salary, but she really wanted more of a flexible schedule. So she said, I chose the flexible schedule and went to bat for that. And she goes, turns out I could have had both.
Both. Right. You don't get what you don't ask for.
You just assume I can only have one, right?
Yeah,
that's too much.
Yeah. It's that scarcity mindset, which I do believe is, again, a lot of social conditioning. But you're right. I think one of my other favorite stories, go ahead. No, first.
But Amy, it's also about, if she's asking, she's one of those women that just, ask for this. It's hard to be a woman in business because you're either too aggressive, you're not aggressive enough, you're this, and we have examples of each end of the spectrum, and finding that middle ground is really tricky.
It is. Yeah, there is no winning because 100%. I was just getting ready to share a story with a guy that I worked with a while back who was a global strategist who came from a large agency to our Midwest, mid-sized agency. And he was talking about the things he negotiated. Like, he didn't want to have a car while he was living here. He was living kind of in the downtown area, close to the agency, but not close enough that it was like a good for him to walk every day. So he negotiated a new bicycle for himself. He also negotiated a nap every day. I was like, what? It's just so wild. But he's like, but these are the things that are my non-negotiables. These are the things that matter to me. And, at the end of the day, the company's like, well, yeah. And I'm sure, again, he is walking in with his credentials and his white dudeness. And I mean, he's a skilled and talented guy too, but he made the money too. He got the bike, he got the naps, and he made the money. But you would just never think to ask for those kinds of things. But you are exactly right. There's a lot more out there.
If they tell you no, right. So what?
Yeah, exactly. That's what negotiation is. It's a little bit of a dance until you kind of find that rhythm, those steps that make sense for the both of you. And if it's meant to be, 100% it'll meant to be. I think that whole it's hard right now though too, right, Lori? Because that job market is no joke right now.
Yeah, it is.
So everyone's feeling a little desperate. We're all feeling a little desperate. The employer
has the upper hand now for sure. But this is why now more than ever, no matter what, you still have to find a company where, it's ethical and, you believe in the products and services, you can stand behind the company, and you're going to learn from your boss. I mean, if at the very least, you don't want someone that's not going to support you. And there are plenty of those people out there, unfortunately. Now that people have learned that a lot of people have learned they can do bad behavior now and get away with it because that's what they see exhibited all over the place these days.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're seeing that everywhere. Yeah. I feel that. All right. So another thing that comes into play when it comes to moving up and moving through the ranks of sales mentorship and sponsorship, both of those come up a lot in conversations about women's advancement, but they're not exactly the same thing. What's the difference, and which one do you think women in B2B sales specifically need the most right now?
Well, I think we need both. You can have both, so you don't have to pick. But the difference is that mentorship is someone who can do skills better than me that I want to learn from. So, for example, I might go to finance and check with the head of finance or even the CFO if they have time to talk to me to show me how finances work in a business, a P&L statement, for example. A lot of people don't know that, and those are important things that AI can explain it, but they can't leverage it in with a conversation with your prospective customer. So being able to learn specific skills and then to go to someone and say, I really need to learn, or I'd really like to learn about a P&L statement. Could you help me with that for over, lunch or, an hour or so that when I'm asking for someone to mentor me, it's not like an open-ended, would you be my mentor? And it's like, well, what does that mean? How long does it last? What do I have to do? And you be ready as a mentee. You be ready to come to someone saying, here are the questions that I have, and make it easy for the mentor to do that. So that's mentorship. It's very important because you can learn all different things that you don't know already. And then the other is sponsorship. And a sponsor is someone who has power in the company, who can speak about you when you're not in the room. We know those conversations happen all the time. When you're not in the highest echelon at an organization, people are, talking about, what if we did this, and what if we moved so-and-so, and what if we got rid of these people? And so the sponsor is the one that says, Amy is just as good as Bob. Why don't you look at Amy too? And that's invaluable. I mean, it's just, if you don't have that, it can be your demise.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's like the biggest power move that, allies can make is, speaking the names of the women who are the folks who are not in the room. I don't think people really acknowledge how much power that is. And it doesn't require anything of you, honestly. It just shows you that you're putting your, belief and recommendation behind someone, and if you believe in them and they deserve it, like why wouldn't you? And that requires no money from you, that requires no time for you, and as long as you're willing to put your a little bit of your reputation out there and betting on this person, then like why wouldn't you? It
Yeah.
looks like you're going to say something else. Go ahead.
Yeah, the best way that you can get a sponsor is not to ask, will you be my sponsor? Because nobody wants to do that. That's a lot of responsibility, but you do extra work or a special project for this person, or where there's visibility. Because the issue we don't realize, and this is notoriously ongoing issues for women, is that we get out of college. In college, we worked really hard. We did extra credit, put our head down, work really hard. Then we go to the company, work really hard, put our head down, and we just wait to get tapped on the shoulder. And that doesn't happen. That isn't how it works. So what you need to do is make sure that not just your boss knows what you're doing, but somehow your boss's boss, and maybe someone in a horizontal role, and you're out there and you're mixing and the people, so that people start going, hey, that Amy, she's pretty sharp. Maybe she could help with this other project. And that's how you don't leave it to your boss to talk you up at all. And keep track of it, even write it down at the end of every week, either digitally or in a notebook or something, the things that you accomplish, because you'd be surprised. I'm still surprised when I think about what I did, in the first quarter of this year, for example. My brain's on to the next thing, and I'm not going, oh, but we did this one really great thing too. So it's a good way to pat yourself on the back. And then if you're up for a promotion, or if you're considering a move, or going to another organization, have all that listed out so you can just go down, and it's not personal. It's not bragging. It's like, these are the things I accomplished.
Yeah.
It's facts. It's facts.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that. Yeah. To me, it's celebration and relationships. Um, I love that. We have a member in Austin who always talks about her to-do folder. She doesn't focus on just her to-dos. She gets her to-dos done as well. Because exactly what you said there, Lori, where it's like we kind of just move through that list because I think we're all kind of hardwired to be productive, and we think productive equals value versus like our innate skills and talents alone. It's like, how many items can I check off the list today? And instead, when you pause and look at your to-dos and you record those, like you said, those aren't just like made up things. Those are facts. And one, you deserve to celebrate them. And two, like, again, you need to use them and leverage them as you negotiate, work through the ranks. And then the other is like reputation. Right. Celebration and reputation. Those are the two things I was going to kind of call on. And reputation does come from the relation, like you said, with the sponsor. You can't just be like, yo, be my sponsor. It is earned. Like you said, it is something that requires you to show up consistently, and show that you are worth, somebody sticking your neck out for. And that really just requires you to be good at your job, show up, do it successfully. And then, like you said, not hold back from saying, look what I did. And I just did it well, and not in a braggy way. But also still have all the confidence of a mediocre white man named Chad, as we like to say here within TD. But yeah, talk about it. Humble brag. We have a whole channel on our Together Digital Slack that is just about wins. We want to condition our women to be more, apropos of sharing that win, and we want to celebrate with them, because when we hear somebody else is winning, that just means we're all winning, and that's what we love to hear and see.
Yeah, totally love that.
Let's talk a little bit about your Sales Decades project. I mentioned this earlier as well in the opening. What inspired it, and what have you discovered about these women's stories that has surprised or moved you?
What inspired it was me getting angry. So, I don't get angry very often, but what was happening is I've noticed a couple of my good friends and colleagues, and who I have called mentors, stepping down from being involved in sales. One retired, and then one just said, I want to do other things, and they just, kind of left the face of the scene, like on LinkedIn and elsewhere. And I heard two different conversations with two different people telling women who are in sales roles that they need more female role models. And I just thought, wow, but you don't know Trish, and you don't know Jill, and you don't know Siobhan, and you don't know some of these other women that I know who are incredible. And if you're 20 or 25 getting into to a sales role, and you're female or male for that matter, because the guys can learn a lot from these women too. There's incredible amounts of knowledge. And these women tend to just move on. We don't need to have a website continue. They shut their website down very often. They don't republish their books or make workbooks, or, and men don't tend to think that way. It's like, ooh, I could have some passive revenue. Let me build that up. And my women friends are just moving on. So I thought we need a way to capsulize who these women are. You said it really well in the introduction. I love the words that you chose. But these are trailblazers, and these are women that helped take business from being manual to being digital. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool with some of the stories that we've heard and we're going to be sharing over the next 6 months online.
Yeah, that's so exciting. I'm thrilled to hear that you're doing this, because I attended the 3% conference that was started by Kat Gordon in 2012. It was like the initial launch of it. And at the time it was called the 3% conference because only 3% of creative directors were women. And I was an associate creative director in a small agency, working on beauty clients, of course, with one other female creative director. And we were the only two. And so I was like such a strange thing for me to be like, oh, wait, like I'm an anomaly. I did not even know this. But I love what you said. I agree with you. I think some of the best business ideas come from anger, especially from women, right? Because there are problems in the world that can be fixed. And then also so anger is the opportunity. And then you have to take the opportunity and then maximize it. Like you were saying, make that website, create those books and create the workbooks and spin off the podcast. Like we are strategic people, right? We know how to make a dollar stretch, how to get the most out of like the planning and the time and all this stuff. It's like, why would you not do that with an opportunity as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea is that we're focusing on the 1980s this year, and next year we've already secured the same space, and we're going to do the 1990s. So
I
women who
love
started in
it.
the 1990s, a little younger, and there's a whole. I already have a list of them because I had to check, and find out what. Did you sell in the 80s? No, I sold in the 90s. Okay, well, you'll be
You're
next
like,
year.
gotta wait till next year.
That's right.
I love it. Well, tell folks a little bit where they can find out more about this event and where it is.
Yeah, so we're having actual in-person events in Dallas at the University of Texas, Dallas, they have a wonderful sales excellence program there. And it is April 22nd in the evening is the reception where we're recognizing all of the people that we've nominated. And then the next day is a day of learning. So it's all about sales, leadership, and mentorship on all day long on the 23rd of April.
I love it.
Yeah. And we still have tickets. And if anyone references this show, I would be happy to honor that early bird price. So
love it. I love it. Thank you for that. That's great. We will make sure we include some of that information as well in the show notes. All right. I'm taking extra notes too, because Lori, you're giving me so many ideas. So many ideas. I love this. All right. Let's talk about, let's see, for women who are currently individual contributors in sales roles that want to move into a leadership role. What's the advice that you find yourself giving most often that maybe they're not already hearing?
Yeah, well, first, find ways to get good self-awareness so that you know where your strengths are and if you're, what you're lacking in. We're all lacking in different areas, and start thinking of ways to work on it. I always thought of myself as a lifelong learner. So I wanted to learn everything I could about communication. I wanted to learn about negotiation. I wanted to learn about anything that was connected to selling. And so that is one thing that I would do. And then I would take on a project or two, not everything. Don't be the volunteer that does everything for everybody, but take on a project that could be high visibility within the organization. And you end up becoming a leader without the title yet. And so I like that strategy. And then you work into getting the title and the pay increase. To me, that's one of the best, especially in a time like this where people are not offering raises maybe, or, quick to promote, but to have a plan and be helpful first, lead with that, and the rest usually should follow, but not always, because some people get stuck helping everybody with everything, and I'm not recommending that.
No, I love that. Putting that line in the sand is so important, Lori, because I think a lot of us will burn ourselves out with doing all of the work at work. And then we'll do the emotional labor at work. We'll be the ones to plan and host the holiday parties at work. But then I'm like, why are you doing this? No man would ever agree to do this kind of voluntary work. Like, unless your plan is to move into an event planner and coordinator and you want to show those skills there, like, why would you take on unpaid labor in addition to the work that you're probably already getting underpaid for? This is also like, I'm just going to soapbox for like a half second and then I'll get off it, I promise. But this is really where I get about like ERGs, which honestly, unfortunately, a lot of those have started to kind of fade and go away. There's no funding. But then also, I think women just got tired of trying to fix a problem they didn't create. And so like you have these employee resource groups that are for LGBTQIA and people of color and women. And we're all sitting here scratching our heads going like, but we didn't make this problem. But company, you want us to make you all feel like you're doing the right things and make other people like us feel more seen and heard. Like, no, that's your job as the company to do,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I tell women that too, when they say, I'm not really happy in my role. I don't feel respected. I don't, I don't feel like they really are glad I'm here. And I say, well, it's on them to make you feel that. Well, it's, if you don't feel it, you should be out opening your eyes and seeing what else is out there, because they're not going to change most likely. And it's not up to you to get them to change. It's on them. And if they're not, if they're not making it a welcoming place where, it's just not worth it.
Yeah. Well, because it's not just a paycheck. It's like that's like a relationship, right? If you came home to somebody that never acknowledged you, that never showed appreciation, that never gave you your dues, would you be like, I have to stay? I mean, sometimes, yeah, we do, because we have to learn.
Yeah, sometimes we do. Yeah.
But like at the same time, it's like, golly, like in that sense of a relationship, I mean, just because they're cutting you a paycheck doesn't mean they won't cut you, because you are a number. And it's not that I don't want to see people loyal to where they work, but I think I've seen a lot of women die on some pretty big hills and put a lot of their career on the line.
My saying that I love is go where you're celebrated, not tolerated.
Ooh, I like that one. I'm going to put that one away in my back pocket for later.
Why put up with toleration?
Yeah. I love that. But I will say quickly one more thing on the volunteering, because I think it's important. Like, we've painted this picture of, okay, yeah, let's not go over here and overextend ourselves, but be strategic in your volunteering. And I think I'm a great example of that. Honestly, I started as a member of this organization and a president of a local board chapter. Like, I wouldn't be running not just one, but two businesses now if it wasn't for volunteering. And what it allowed me to do was, as somebody who was a creative director and kind of pegged to somebody who couldn't potentially run a business, apparently, I got on a board and I just showed off my operational chops. And all of a sudden I was training all the other boards how to operate. And that helped the founder see me and go, okay, you've got some skill here. I'm going to go do this thing. How about you run this company for me? And I was like, wait, what? But it had everything to do with me just showing up and doing a good job as a volunteer,
And also, you don't have to do it forever. So when I moved to Boston, for example, I moved there and I had started my own business, and no one knew me in that way. And I got involved with an organization that was high visibility, that was rapidly growing, that, it was really good. I worked hard as a co-chair of the Boston chapter, but I met so many people and got so many connections. And then there's a point where you go, okay, now it's time for someone else to do it, because you don't have to do it forever. And what I learned, a long time ago, is that if you move away, because I was volunteering in Seattle when I moved across the country, it's like the organization will not crumble. I mean, they're not relying that you think that it's all on your shoulders and no one can do the job like you do. But you know what? They figure it out.
They do. I think that is like the other thing too. I'm going to take a quick little picture of us because I want a picture for later. And then I also want to post your go where you are celebrated, not tolerated. That's going to stick with me. But yeah, what did you say right after that? Because I got distracted taking my picture.
Just about being in Boston and volunteering for us, that it's okay to do for a certain amount of time, that you even if it's more than you want to do, just do it for a year, and that can be really valuable as well.
It was the connections too, right? The networking. That's immense. Like, honestly, like I built such a reputation for myself by just volunteering, strategically for the things that mattered to me. Like, people knew what I stood for. And that's how the right opportunity to run my second business came from. So yeah, 100%. Love that.
Volunteering. That's the phrase. That's a really good phrase.
Yeah, no, I love it. Great advice. All right. We would be remiss not to mention good old AI in a podcast, because, it's everywhere and we know it's not going away.
It's AI.
It's listening to us right now. Reshaping sales. It's reshaping sales in so many other industries faster than any other function. From what you're seeing, is this an opportunity for women, or do you feel more of a risk when it comes to sales? And what should they be paying attention to right now when it comes to AI? Because there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of noise around it.
Well, I feel it's a great time for women to get into sales if they haven't. And if they're in it, to just kind of, improve their chops, so to speak, and to understand how AI can help us do our jobs. It can streamline things in so many ways. but it can't do everything, at least not now. And I figure there's, a number of years, there's a window, just like when the internet came about in the late 90s, early 2000s, everybody was like, oh, all the bookstores are going to go under. And some of them did, right? But not all of them, because those mom and pop bookshops that had book clubs and did all these personalized things, they're still thriving, years later. So it's change, and we have to learn how to adapt to it. So it's not like you don't have to do a thing and everything will be perfect. That's not what I'm saying, but you need to learn about AI and see how it can be your workmate, and streamline the manual things that everybody hated to do anyway, and take advantage of that. And what women can bring is the sense of just the communication skills and rapport building and community building, like you were talking about earlier. And just also, there are all sorts of different skills, empathy. AI doesn't have any of that, for sure. So we bring that in spades. And so it's a great time. It's a great time to be in sales.
I agree with you. It's a very good complementary tool. And honestly, hiding away from it and being afraid isn't going to serve you. So you kind of just got to dive in and use it to your advantage. I love that. That's great advice. All right. So you built Score More Sales and Women Sales Pros simultaneously. So the consultancy and the advocacy work. How do you think about those two missions? And did they ever pull in different directions, or do you feel like they're very aligned?
Well, I need them to be aligned because I only have so much energy and bandwidth. So what's great is that, yeah, Score More Sales is a sales strategy firm, and getting more women into sales is part of the strategy of building inclusive sales teams. So to me, it ties in very well. And I do my best work when they're connected like that.
I agree. That, and I think we're very similar in that sense. It's like, I just always want there to be a through line, like a thread that kind of goes through, because again, it's like strategically smart as well, right? We like to work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. And people need to understand that you're not just one or the other.
Yes.
Good point. A combo.
Good point. I love that. All right. One last question, and then we're going to go to, I'll check the chat and see if there's any questions, and then we'll go into our power round, which is a set of lightning round questions to wrap things up. Yeah, no pressure. It's all good. It'll be fun. All right. So, say a company leader is listening right now at a sales organization, and they genuinely want to do better. This is kind of where that whole empowering our allies comes in, better by their women in their sales org. What's the first concrete thing you would tell them to do, like this week?
It's a male leader.
Or just a company leader in general, yeah. But if you want to dissect it.
Yeah, I would say go to the people and ask them what they need. I think of a good male ally that I've known for years, and he thought, and I thought he was doing a really great job, but he asked the women on his team, like, am I doing enough? What else should I be doing? And he got better feedback from them. And that was tremendous, because he was open to it, and then he was able to shift and be even stronger.
You're only going to benefit from it, fellas. Give it a try. Yeah. We promise it'll be okay.
That's the best first step, is to listen, and don't walk in and start telling everybody what to do, but ask the questions and get the feedback, and then do what you will from there.
That's fantastic advice. All right. We're good in the chat for now. If you've got questions, drop them in there. If not, feel free to connect with Lori on LinkedIn, or check her out through her website, which we'll include in the show notes as well. And we love the questions, so don't be shy about sharing them if you've got them. If you are shy about it, definitely just reach out to Lori. All right. Our power round questions. One word that describes where women in B2B sales are right now.
Climbing. Growing.
Love it. Finish this sentence. The best sales manager I ever had
was a man named Al Martin. He came from IBM, and he taught me. He used to pace, and I was in field sales, so we would go to an office and wait to meet the executive. And sometimes you'd have to wait and wait and wait in the waiting room, and Al would pace back and forth, and he would make people so anxious because he was a big man. And they would get, they'd scurry in and say, "Oh, is Mr. Smith coming out? Because this guy's kind of pacing." And then he'd look at his watch and he'd go, "Okay, we'll give him 5 more minutes." And then he'd say, "Well, we need to reschedule." And I just learned about respect and, being respected for being in a sales role, which isn't always the case in sales.
I love that. I love that story. That sounds amazing. Sounds like an awesome guy. All right. Something that you wish someone would have told you in your first year of sales for all our newbies out there.
Negotiate your salary. That's my number one.
I love it.
It will always
and like you said earlier, that's you demonstrating your skills and abilities for the job. So if like anything else, just like you said, negotiate for that.
Yeah. I got brought into a company to speak about my tips. And I mentioned that one and I thought, oh, the company hired me to come in. I hope they're not mad that I'm telling them, all the women, that they should negotiate their salaries.
Yeah.
But it's
the right
true.
people will hire you then. The right people will hire you then, right? So like that was the thing too. Like with this new business I'm running, it's a co-working space. I loved that the community manager straight up negotiated right out of the gate. I did not expect it from somebody so young and a woman. So I was even myself taken aback. But so I will tell you, like I'm probably more likely to hire you because you actually tried to negotiate. That tells me so much about you. Not that I would even start lowballing anybody, but it was really great to see sort of that strategic thinking.
And it's just something women don't tend to do. We're raised to just accept
take
stuff.
what we're given and just be happy about it. All right. Last one, a belief that women in sales you used to hold that you've completely changed your mind about.
I used to feel kind of down about things not changing, about progress not happening so fast. And now I see really great companies that have evolved with great leadership and great women leaders. There's so many amazing female leaders now. On my post I did today, I mentioned all these different organizations for women in sales and communities and clubs. And those weren't around before. So I champion those and I cheer everybody on doing that.
I love it. That's fantastic. And it is, I agree with you. We're seeing more and more of it. Women are standing in their power in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different like moments in society and whatever. So yeah, it's very exciting to see. Well, Lori, thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you for spending your time with us in our amazing community here at Together Digital. Yeah. Make sure, where can folks go to find you and get their hands on those tickets?
I think LinkedIn is a really good way, but please mention in the connection request, if we're not connected, that you heard this interview, because I get lots of them, and you're making it easy for people if you can customize it and mention this, and then I'll accept it right away.
Perfect. I love it. This is so great, Lori.
Score more sales. Anything score more sales online. That's where I am.
You got your gal now. You know who to go to. All right, Together Digital community, you also know the drill. If this conversation fired you up, please share it. Tag someone who needs to hear it, whether it's a coworker, friend, a boss. And if you're ready to be a part of the community of women who are actively choosing to share their knowledge, power, and connections, check us out. Join us at togetherindigital.com. Until then, everyone, thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening live. Thank you for listening after the fact. Thank you again, Lori, for sharing your power. Until then, everyone, keep asking, keep giving, and keep growing. We'll see you next time.
Produced by Heartcast Media.